Hello, this is Deepak again. This is my second Facebook Live today, and I feel compelled to make some comments of this book that I'm reading by Yuval Noah Harari, who was also the author of *Sapiens*. And I have just finished reading this book. First of all, I have to say that Yuval Noah Harari is one of the most brilliant minds of our time. And both his books, *Sapiens* and *Homo Deus*, are actually very captivating and I believe must-reads for anyone who wants to know a little bit about the history of the evolution of our cosmos, and also about what to expect in the future. What I'd like to do is read a little bit from page 109 here on this book. Thank you, by the way, for everyone sharing this video and expanding our conversation. So I'd like to read a little bit to you from the book. Once again, the book is Yuval Noah Harari, and this is from a chapter called The Human Spark. Nobody has any idea of how a congeries of biochemical reactions and electrical currents in the brain creates the subjective experience of pain, anger, or love. Perhaps we will have a solid explanation in 10 or 50 years, but as of 2016, we have no such explanation, and we had better be clear about this or that. And we had better be clear about that. Using fMRI scans, implanted electrodes, and other sophisticated gadgets, scientists have certainly identified correlations and even causal links between electrical currents in the brain and various subjective experiences. Just by looking at brain activity, scientists can know whether you are awake, dreaming, or in deep sleep. They can briefly flash an image in front of your eyes, just as the threshold of conscious perception, and just at the threshold of conscious perception, and determine without asking you whether you have become aware of the image or not. They have even managed to link individual brain neurons with specific mental content, discovering, for example, a Bill Clinton neuron and a Homer Simpson neuron. When the Bill Clinton neuron is on, the person is thinking of the 42nd president of the USA, showing the person an image of Homer Simpson, and the eponymous neuron is bound to ignite. More broadly, scientists know that if an electrical storm arises in a given brain area, you probably feel angry. If the storm subsides and a different area lights up, you're experiencing love. Indeed, scientists can even induce feelings of anger or love by electrically stimulating the right neurons. But how on earth does the movement of electrons from one place to the other translate into a subjective image of Bill Clinton or a subjective feeling of anger or love? The most common explanation points out that the brain is a highly complex system with more than 80 billion neurons connected into numerous intricate webs. When billions of neurons send billions of electrical signals back and forth, subjective experiences emerge. Even though the sending and receiving of each electrical signal is a simple biochemical phenomenon, the interaction among all these signals creates something far more complex, the stream of consciousness. So then, Yuval goes on to talk about the hard problem of consciousness and makes many interesting observations. I just want to address one point in this book and the previous book that Yuval has written. First of all, I love both books, and I highly recommend them to anyone who wants to understand the history of the cosmos from the Big Bang until now, and probably of the future. Here is my solution to Yuval's puzzlement, or actually raising the question of how these experiences occur and what the brain has to do with them. And I hope you will be patient with me, and these solutions are offered in the spirit of humility. So everything that Yuval Harari has described in both his books, Extraordinary Journey, is actually the human story of the human universe. Okay, using, of course, a human nervous system. And because of our ability to tell stories, we have actually become the most dominant species on this planet, as Yuval so elegantly explains. But here's what I would like to add to all of this. The universe and the history and the future that Yuval describes is a human story that is based on constructs in human consciousness that are derived from modes of knowing, experience, and inferences in human consciousness. So, in the deeper reality, what we call a brain, or a body, or a mind, or a universe, is a human construct, a human story derived from fundamental experiences in consciousness, such as sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, which are modifications of consciousness itself. So when we experience sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, which are modified forms of consciousness, we give that a name. As humans, we call that mental activity. When we experience sense perceptions, which are also modified activities of consciousness, we give that another name: brain, body, objects, universe. So in the deeper reality, there is only consciousness, its modified expressions, which are sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, sense perceptions, their interpretations in human consciousness, that we call mind, body, brain, universe. The brain itself is a perceptual experience in consciousness, in the same way as a shoe is, or this is. The body is a perceptual experience in consciousness, in the same way as this hand and this pen are. The galaxies and stars are perceptual experiences in consciousness, in the same way as this book is. Book is a human construct for a shape, a color, a noise, a taste, a smell, which are human constructs around fundamental raw experience. So the universe and the history that Yuval describes is a human history created out of human constructs around modes of knowing and experience in human consciousness. That's it. There's no need to solve the hard problem of consciousness, because the brain itself is just a mode of knowing and experience in consciousness. So if we take that as the ontological primitive, which means Consciousness is the ontological primitive of all experience, and that the mind, body, and universe are activities in consciousness, modifications of consciousness that we call experience, and objectify them into the so-called external world, then it's fine. Then then there is no need to even address the hard problem, because there is no hard problem. The brain, body, mind, and universe are human constructs. Does that negate anything that Yuval is saying? No. In fact, what he's saying about the future of augmented reality, artificial intelligence, the future of man-machine hybrids, the future of simulation, all these are probably going to happen, and humans are going to evolve into what could only be called the meta-human. But the meta-human itself will be a derivative of the fundamental ontological primitive, which is consciousness. And consciousness is not a personal property. We, you and I, are modes of knowing and experience in that fundamental awareness, which is the ground of all existence. So, without using words like God or soul or spirit, I think if we just accept that the universe that we experience is a human universe, then and that it is created by our collective intersubjective experiences, that it is indeed a human universe, then, and that we are creating it as an experience, we, not the body mind, but the awareness in which the body mind is also experienced, then that poses an enormous responsibility to us, for us. We can create and help the evolution of the universe that we'll be experiencing in the future, but we can also create hell. And in a way, some of it we have already done. Climate change, extinction of species, extinction of basically the biosphere being threatened, so that extinction of our own self as a species is now a possibility with our primitive urges and our modern capacities. So once we accept that the universe we are experiencing is the human universe, that all taxonomy, all biology, evolution itself, the universe itself, is all human construct, stories, the scientific story, the theological story, the religious story, the economic story, well linked, but stories that we have created, then it is up to us now to create a story for the future, so that we can at least see a possibility of a more peaceful, just, sustainable, and healthy world. So I thank Yuval for writing this book. I recommend it to all of you, and also recommend his previous book, Sapiens. But do understand that the history of the universe and the universe are human constructs based on modes of knowing and experience in human consciousness, and in fact modifications of consciousness itself. I missed that, but somebody just said nothing perceivable or definable or conceptualizable is who we are. So one of the things I also appreciated in this book was the dedication by Yuval to my teacher, he says, S.N. Goenka, 1924-2013, who lovingly taught me important things. And the important thing he taught was to go back to that silent witnessing awareness in which thoughts arise and subside, in which emotions arise and subside, in which sense perceptions arise and subside, all as modifications of that witnessing awareness. Ultimately, there is only witnessing awareness modifying itself as knower, known, and process of knowing, as seer, seeing, and scenery. Know thyself, and you know the universe. Thank you, Yuval, for a wonderful, stimulating book. Once again, Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow. Thank you.